here with her. She's going to be talking about something that I would love to know more about as well. And I think that a lot of people that are watching this, if you don't know what sacred geometry is, I think this is going to be a really beneficial chat for you if you are in a place where you know you have an inability, an inner gift, an inner desire to help others, but you're not so sure how to go about it. But I will let Nirmala talk to us about it and explain to us all about it. Nirmala, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me in, Angelica. It's been a pleasure, working with you and knowing you. So here we are doing things together again.
I know, it's amazing. And I just wanted to highlight how I got to know Nirmala. So I had just left my corporate job and I was in exact that same place thinking, I want to help people. I know I have learned a lot through my healing journey. I know I have an enormous amount of information inside of me, but I don't know how to go about it. Channeling this to the right people in the right way, because at the time I didn't have any qualifications, I didn't have any background, and Nirmala helped me to see something so important, which was that it wasn't about the qualification, but it was about me tapping into my inner knowing, my inner ability, my inner desire to help others, so I could really unleash that power. And I'm so grateful that our paths crossed and I met Nirmala, and here I am today, and here is Nirmala today. And I think it's really, really incredible.
Yeah. Thank you, Angelica. Yeah, it's just a connection had to happen at that purpose, isn't it? And you were kind of feeling that I still remember the conversation that you felt like, no, I don't think so, when I was talking about it. And look at you right now. This is what exactly we were talking, 2 years ago or 3 years, I can't even remember, but this is what exactly, wasn't it? Yeah. And you just needed that tip of going into that process of just learning while you're opening up about yourself. Yeah. There was so much of understanding within you anyway. So it was not you're not going through hurdles and hurdles. You were just crossing the bridge, and all you needed that push. And that's about it. Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about what it is sacred geometry.
Okay. So in essence, sacred geometry is a way of understanding and connecting with the underlying order and harmony of the universe, right? It's like a reflection of natural patterns and shapes that we find in all things, human beings, animals, plants, universe, right? From the tiniest particles to the vast expanse of the cosmos. So sacred geometry, in schools, we have learned about sacred geometry. We have learned about geometry, not sacred geometry. Yeah. And we know that it is about patterns, shapes, and we learn how each grid is important, and how m square is important, the my, and those sort of things, right? So this is the same formula. The mathematics that we use at that time is actually the actual measurement that we took it from sacred geometry, and they put it into our subjects to learn in school. And of course, they removed the sacred space of it. They went into the measurement. They forgot to mention about the universal measurement, right? Mm-hmm. So we have learned about the circles, the squares, the triangles, the spirals, and how their measurements are so unique, yeah? So when we come to the subject of sacred geometry, what is truly remarkable is that it is not just an abstract or concept of theoretical construct. It is actually a living, breathing expression of the universal consciousness that flows through all things. All right? Wow. And we are not separate to it. We are not separate to the patterns and shape. We are part of the patterns and shape that make up the universe. So we are intricately connected to them. So we are the energy of the sacred geometry. All the measurements from our head to the toe is kind of very intricately measured and designed by the universe to be in this design. So we are the sacred geometry. Did you answer the question?
Yes. And I think, for the people who are coming into this as completely new, how does that apply into our day-to-day life, in the sense of like, we talked about, in my case, like touching to our, inner power, inner abilities, touching to that deep desire to help others that perhaps you're not sure how to go about it. How can people puzzle that together in their minds, in their heads?
Okay, so are you asking the question, how am I seeing it in them, or how?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it's okay. So part of my unique abilities is that I'm able to see the sacred geometry in space, in individuals, in uniqueness. Okay, so there is a pattern that comes in front of me about an individual, right? So I work with that in that space. So when I say that, say for example, when you look at sacred geometry, when we look at the sign, if you look at a circle, all right, the octahedron, in sacred geometry, we call it the octahedron. The circle represents wholeness and unity. It is often used as a symbol for divine, represents infinite and eternal, right? So if I'm looking at someone and I can sense their sacred geometry, that's kind of a line, because we are made up of all the geometries that you can think in this universe. We are designed with it. But specifically something steps out, that shows me the character and personality of that person. Okay, so it doesn't mean that if they are of an octahedron personality, they are going to hold this personality forever. That personality can shift and change. So the other aspect of it is the binaries and information through the sacred geometry that I'm communicating. I'm able to see what is their next level, or what is actually holding them back, and what is the representation of them. Yeah. So sometimes it's the patterned way of their thinking, and sometimes it is like this is what they are, but they are kind of hiding themselves without realizing what kind of sacred geometry they are. Right. So so the sacred geometry is very complicated subject, but it's a very interesting subject. Right. So we can go from one end to the other end by just understanding who you are, what your actual nature of you is. For example, Angelica, when you came to me the first time, when you spoke to me, I was completely in communication with your sacred geometry, that I understood this beautiful being is an aspect of the 𝗕𝗢𝗘. She's able to align the energy and the fire together, and she's went through the process of it. Now she can take it and articulate that into such a beautiful way, so that she can use it for others. So that was already coming in my space, and that's what I was expressing and explaining to you. Does it make sense?
It does make sense. I just want to highlight that when I called Nirmala was by phone. We didn't see each other on Zoom. She did not know me, and she did not know anything about me. So how do you explain to people, like, how do you feel this? Do you see this? Like, how did that inner ability of yours came about?
Okay, so I have been like that my whole life, so it's a very difficult question. But the thing is that my whole life, this is where it has been a challenge for me since even as a child, right? So, like I'm living in both the worlds together. Yeah. So this is what my sacred. This is what I'm seeing, but this is what I'm meant to see. Yeah. So somehow, rather, as I'm growing older, I kind of master. I kind of mastered the way I'm going to look at things, right? Because I possess this unique quality that allows me to communicate with the patterns and shape of the sacred geometry. I can kind of now walk into it and say that, okay, now I want to see the physical expression of the person, or I really want to go deep into their sacred space to understand who this unique being is all about, right? So that's how I can actually walk individuals into the mystical place where they can actually explore and connect to their underlying order of the harmony by recognizing their own identity. Right. So most of the time when clients come to me or people come to me, they don't even identify, they don't even understand what great ability or uniqueness they have. They always come to me saying that issues or problems that they're holding at that very moment. But when you look at it carefully, the sacred geometry, I don't even have to ask them what has happened in the past, what's happening right now, because all communication is done through the sacred geometry. right? So they're already kind of telling me this is what's exactly happening. So now I have to go to the core of the problem and bring them into the depth of it so that they can now go and look at it and completely unlock it themselves, or I help them to unlock it. Yeah. So then through this, the most powerful aspect of this work is that what I see is that the ability to shift energy. So they are no longer holding on to something that they cannot hold anymore, and allowing them to open that door and walk into their future as if it's happening right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the transformation that happens in situations like relationships or even work environments or personal experiences, right? So the sacred geometry in communication with me tells me exactly about what's happening with them right now, or their past or their future. So my job is just to follow the sacred geometry and just explain to them as I'm communicating with them. I mean, I hope it's not too complicated what I'm explaining.
No, it is. It is. And of course, that is kind of a practicing what you're preaching. And you are born with this inner ability, and you are living through this inner ability, and like, just to give people a little bit of a perspective, you're not where you are now, without going through lots of issues yourself, until you got to having this clarity yourself now, working as a practitioner, right? Like, it's not like you started your life and you accepted this inner gift and you started using that gift, and life had to kind of also direct you, right?
Yeah, so it's just that as anybody else, everyone of I always see anybody opposite to me, they have their unique abilities. Whether they want to use this in this lifetime is all up to them. But for me, it went through, I mean, as anybody else, I went through my own challenges, right? So holding, wearing a hat as a banker, as a premier banker, and then going through the process of it, and then until, and then you kind of make a decision one day that because the universe kind of pushed you into something, yeah, so you're no longer existing in that world, that you have to now step into the true nature of you, who you really are. So it was a huge challenge, when you look at it in every consciousness. I kind of felt like I'm going in, I'm coming back, and I'm saying, yes, I want to do this, not now. And then until an accident happened. And I had no other way, but the universe said, no, we are putting you into this now, you just do this. So everybody has to go through their own process. Everybody has their own way of experiencing things. And the way that I experience is that, I had these abilities. I was using it even in the corporate world. But years ago, with what has happened to me, where my movements was, I didn't have much mobility. I was compromised. My movements was compromised, and I had to work it out, right? So how I'm going to work it out on myself using the sacred geometry, and how I'm going to help others is exactly the same way. So I made up my mind that this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach people how they can look at themselves and how they can actually now come out of that 3D identity and try to go into the universal identity, so that now they know they can become who they want to be, or they can really come out of a relationship, or they can become a relationship, all those things, whatever doors has been closed, through this sacred geometry, it becomes opportunity to open it up. Yeah.
I think it's so powerful what you've just said in so many levels. I think, when you go through something yourself as a practitioner, you have so much many more tools to teach people and help them, to walk, that path. And, like I said, sometimes most of the time life has to push us,
Yes.
To really make that decision. And like I said, you might not make that decision in this lifetime, or you might do, like yourself, you did. And I think, like, it's so important to, when you are helping people, that you have gone through that yourself, like, so exactly, walking them through that same path, exactly what it takes, to heal yourself, to do the work yourself, so you can help them as well, which is, I think it's amazing and very powerful. So in regards to the people that come to you, and you kind of mentioned a bit about where they're at their headspace. I mean, who is the person that you can actually help?
Oh, all sorts of people come to me. So in the sense, like all right, so very good one. Good example is people who kind of completed a lot of things. They went through the same university with me, and then they've completed their work, but they don't know where to start, what to do with their life, because they got so much of knowledge now. But they say that they don't know where to start, what to do with all this intelligence that they're holding. So this is where it makes it very interesting, because they can actually step out of that space that they're holding, actually, if they were to trust the journey. With the sessions, usually, I'm able to kind of bring them into a space to kind of allow them to identify their organic self. It's like looking at their own blueprint. So when I do that, when they come back from that, they kind of engage to this higher consciousness, higher self, understanding there's so much about them that has now come into this space. What am I going to do? So I kind of bring them into a space of thinking, because I'm able to kind of help them, because they have to first of all trust the journey. So walking into space, walking into the tunnel, and once I open up that door, when they walk out, they're already able to see there's a shift that's already happened. They were able to recognize their original or their organic self. So that is kind of through the sessions that I do. Through the workshops, I do something else. And through the self-mastery program, I do another way of working with individuals. But with the sessions, that's what exactly I do. It's like, first of all, allowing them to completely declutter, remove all these baggages, and then walk as them as a light, and see themselves as a light, so they can identify. And it becomes such a profound experience for a lot of people when they come out of the session most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was that phone call. I remember I was in process of thinking, like, should I study something? Like I don't see myself focusing only on one thing, but because my healing journey has covered so many things. And I remember you said to me, Angelica, it's not about what you study. Whatever you study is just going to be like the confirmation of your experience. It's like you're going to have this for this world, but it's not where you get the biggest level of learning and teachings. You got that already within yourself. And for me, that was so powerful. It was almost like if somebody gave me the permission, like, to go, and just go and do what you need to do. And and that was just our first initial conversation, and was really, really powerful for me, because from that moment, I did study after that, but I came to realize that it wasn't about the studies. It was about really the experience that I had gone through, and what I had learned, and what I could teach to other people. So, and I think that another type of person that you were able to help as well is people that were born the same as you, but perhaps with an inner ability that.
Oh yes, yeah.
Like, can you talk to it, to that as well?
Yeah. So there's a lot of people. I mean, for me, anyone sitting opposite to me, they all has their own unique abilities. As I said, whether they want to pursue or they want to sit in that space and hold it is up to them. So what I find is the potential. Sometimes it makes me sad to know this being has got so much of potential within her or him, but they are not even using it because of the pattern or because of the way they have already been designed. Yeah. So they have this pattern they are holding, and they think that they cannot be more than that. So there's a lot of people that came through in this space where they thought that this is all they have and there's nothing much. And through these sessions, what I've discussed and what I've opened up is that they are able to see that actually the experience that they went through is going to be a huge knowledge for somebody else. And that experience can be shared, but in a very unique way, using their own abilities. And I've discovered so many people who are able to do something beyond beyond what they could think of. And a lot of people have told me, no, that's not me. No, that's not me. And suddenly they send me videos, or I mean, after years, they send me videos saying that they are in a stage now performing or giving speech about consciousness, and in my, it just gives me such a gratitude that they finally chose the path to do what they really came here to do. Yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So talk to us a little bit. So you mentioned you've got the, one-to-one session. So you're talking, to people who needs particularly, any help with a particular problem, let's say. And then you have the self-mastery course and also the group coaching, which is, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
All right. The individual sessions is all about any kind of people come there, not exactly because they have issues. Some people do come with issues, relationships, as I say, work environment, or children, or any kind of trauma, or kind of struggling with some sort of conditions or whatever it is. And all sorts of people come in, and some people just come in just to see where they're going in this lifetime. Yeah. So I've got all sorts of people. So my job is to completely, when they come in for this individual session, is to relate to their sacred geometry and see, even though they come in, they say that this is my issue, this is what I want to do. My communication is there with their sacred space, and the geometry cannot lie. They'll be exactly at the very core of telling what really needs to do with this human, so that now they can move forward. What is really holding them back? So that's the work I'll do on them to make sure that now they can move forward. And I bring them into this transcendental space where they can observe themselves, they can see themselves as who they really meant to be. So that's what makes the shift in them. So that is the session, that's the individual sessions, right? So that goes for even relationships and everything. They will do their own discovery, that they can actually step back and now witness themselves, observing when they are having issues with relationships or with children or whatever it is. And then they come into a very much a sacred space that they don't get angry anymore, or they don't tend to overwhelm themselves, or they don't tend to stress themselves too much. All right. So there's a huge understanding comes after the session for individuals. Now, the other one is the workshop that I created. And this workshop is completely the way I have been seeing sacred geometry. Right. So I went bits and bits and sat down for 2 years writing this workshop, actually, because I have to observe myself. What am I seeing? How am I doing it? And that's how I created this workshop. And this workshop is it will teach individuals to learn how to connect with the energies and patterns of sacred geometry, and to use them to transform their life, and how they can help others using the same transformation space, holding that space. And also they can gain valuable insights into their own personality and how it can relate to the world around them using the sacred geometry. And also practical tools that are provide techniques and meditations where how the working with the sacred geometry is going to shift energy in their life and the other our others around them as well. And I see great results in these group workshops. And the workshops are such that it can't be done in one course. It has to be done in sessions. So it's like a 4 weeks or 2 weeks or 6 weeks courses that I do. And I teach them about every single sacred geometry, their personality, and how to use them to elevate yourself. So that's what I teach, all the techniques in this. And it's like they're coming into an harmony going into this workshop, because they learn a new technique that they have never touched before. So that is the workshop. And the self-mastery program is an 8 weeks program that I have designed to develop so that individuals who have a lot of knowledge and beautiful experiences, but they don't know how to create a program, right? So I help them to design their own coaching program based on their core geometry, right? By the 8th week, they are able to structure to have their individual geometrical experience and unique teaching abilities all into a program. Yeah. So that's what I do with the self-mastery program. Now, this in saying that it also includes creating a structure of developing their own core. That means they bring out their own uniqueness, That's the whole thing about this. That means they are not going to share, they're not going to borrow, they're not going to copy, they are not going to list a checklist. This quantum self-mastery program is going to be designed to help you to develop your own program based on how your secret geometry is and how your core uniqueness is now going to step up through that. So that's how this has been designed. So so that's the self-mastery program.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So the individual sessions and the self-mastery is kind of a one-to-one, and then you have the workshops, which is more like a group setting. Is that right?
Yes. So the individual session is one-to-one. It's just a 1 day. It's like an hour and a half. The workshops goes on for weeks. So that's a group setting. The self-mastery program is one-to-one.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. I think there is, like I said, a lot of people that have got a lot of knowledge. They perhaps have gone through, similar things that we have, and I feel there is a lot of people that feel stuck. They feel stuck for many reasons. It could be that there is a lot of fear holding them back, or things holding them back. But there is, also the overwhelm. What it is, my path. And I think, what you're describing is really important. It's just tapping to your own inner ability, as opposed to, like copying and pasting somebody else's idea. And I think, that's what the world is starving for. People that are authentic, people that are, just themselves, as opposed to copying somebody else's.
Yeah, and it's very powerful, because when you bring in your unique ability and that becomes the design of you, nobody can copy it, nobody can do it, because only you can do it. And you can see that you can actually contribute, and you don't have to learn too much, because it's already you. And it's so easy. And I find that a lot of people don't know that. They always goes into trying to, how would I say, take somebody else's and try to match it with them. And they don't know how to move it through, or even go into specific studies again and again and again, but they don't know how to create their own program. Using their own abilities. So using the sacred geometry is easy done for me, because the core of what personality or what teachings or what divine space they're holding will tell me exactly how to bring them into that path in that 8 weeks to design their own program.
Yeah. And, for me, like when Nirmala explains about the sessions, I've done the one-to-one sessions. It's very much like, as, she explained, you're sitting in a place that you're observing, your life from a higher place, and from the understanding of, you are detached from the actually, what's happening, and you can really see with clarity what's going on and what you need to do, which is, it's a little bit hard to explain, but I think that's, the really explaining plain terms for me. That's what I was able to see, really detaching myself from seeing what it is, what's happening, and then observing it and having a lot more clarity.
Yeah. So it's like you're living this dimension and going to a different realm and observing yourself from that higher realm. And that's very exciting for people to observe themselves, because that's when everything changes. Just within that second, within that minutes, everything start opening about themselves.
Yeah. And I think what you said is really important to highlight as well. It's not that people's sacred geometry are fixed, constantly moving, right? And there's so many changes there as possible. And, when people see themselves as just in one thing, or just doing one thing, there is so much that they can, be and do and achieve.
Yes. Yeah. The learning of sacred geometry is there's no limit, there's no boundaries, there's no limit to it. It's like it's expanse. I can just, if I were to move to this angle here, you can see the hexahedron that I've drew over there is part of my workshop, where I'm just talking about a cube, right? I'm just talking about the cube, and it's a hexahedron, right? So within that, the 6 doors, what are the consciousness in that 6 doors? How are you going to declutter and bring in everything from the spiritual space? So I describe how each individual sacred geometry plays a part in our life, and how we can use them as a tool to go into the next stage of our life.
Amazing, amazing. So I'm going to add your website. I know that there is some dates that workshops are going to start as well, but people can book the one-to-one sessions or even the self-mastery program. But I think the work that you're doing is so important. There are so many talented people who feel stuck. That really, we need their help. We need more people that are conscious, more people that are living a conscious life so they can help others. And I think, it's just like I said, it's tweaking until, people can see, like, lighten up their path, right? So they can see clearly their potential and what they can do.
Yeah, and I still have not put up my self-mastery program into the website because it's in the design at the moment. But I prefer people to because the way it's going to do is I have to interview the person to see whether this is going to be something that they want to do. So I'm going through an interview process. Then after that, they can enroll to the self-mastery program if they're interested. So for that purpose, they can email me first, and then we can start the conversation. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Nirmala, for your time. And thank you so much for, talking to us about, sacred geometry and sharing with us your learnings and teachings. And thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Angelica, for inviting me. Thank you.
Take care.
See you then. Okay. Bye.
Bye.